Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. The games industry as a whole is constantly changing the way it monetizes and keeps you engaged. If you take a quick look across a range of recent or just ongoing IPs, you have monthly subscriptions in RuneScape, you've got single purchase, kind of single player games like God of War, seasonal updating multiplayer games like Overwatch, which are more sort of brawler arena shooters, massive content expansions with additional free DLC in The Witcher 3, season passes, premium passes, battle passes, all of those in pretty much everything at this point, and heaps more options elsewhere. Now, I think Call of Duty is actually a reasonable microcosm of the greater industry around it. It's a nice distilled version of everything else going on, because Call of Duty games are never really at the front of the pack leading the innovation, and they instead choose to mainly do what they know they can do as smoothly as possible. COD is also never so far behind everything else that it begins to lose relevance. I mean, the series keeps breaking its own records year after year, whether it's with speed of sales on the PlayStation Store with Chronicles, that was DLC 5 for Black Ops 3, or if it's just the revenue of the base game being sold. It kind of just seems to be a gift that keeps on giving, and so I feel like because it's not at the front of the pack and it's not at the back of the pack, we can use it as a nice example of a game sitting in the middle. With that in mind, if we do a bit of a deeper dive into COD as our industry guinea pig, we find that there's always a base game released in November, usually, and then 4 additional downloadable map packs released over the course of the following year. Activision, who publish Call of Duty and pay for its development by Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and Sledgehammer, the 3 kind of sister development studios, have also recently experimented with having their devs create limited-time seasonal events modeled after what we see, for example, in Overwatch, and that's been done to try and spice up gameplay and keep players engaged as the year progresses so that they're more likely to spend money as the year progresses and allow Activision to top up their bottom line. Now, this sharing of content strategies and monetization models has happened across nearly every game and franchise at this point, as publishers have sought to maximize their revenue to offset the exponentially increasing costs of developing a AAA game. It is an expensive business at this point. You look back a few decades ago when games were mainly available in arcades, for instance, and I'll have some video of me in an arcade last week, actually, on the screen right now so you can get a feel for what that sort of thing might entail. But you look back then, and there were so many fewer expectations on the people making the games, and as such, it was a lot cheaper to make them. But now, you've got to have a campaign, a multiplayer, and a zombies mode. You've got to have X, Y, and Z. You've got to do all of these things, and that means that the development teams are much bigger. You've got hundreds, if not thousands, working on some games at this point, and that's obviously got a massive cost associated with it. So expectations have changed, and so the models that people are using to monetize their games have changed as well. Now today, I want to use our Call of Duty guinea pig and contrast it against what is essentially the biggest, most loud elephant in the room right now, Fortnite, to try and figure out where the industry might be going in the next 2 to 3 years, because every couple of years it feels like there's some kind of phenomenon that grips the industry. Everyone starts doubling down on a new technique, a new thing they can do for development, or for monetization, or for just joy in the game, and suddenly everyone is doing it. And I feel like at one point it was kind of booster packs, at one point it was horde modes, and now I think Fortnite has the chance to really make a footprint all of its own to mark the industry to come in the near future. Now, I think we all know pretty much how Fortnite works at this point, in terms of monetization at least. You can buy the campaign mode for 35, 40 quid, or you can just play the Battle Royale mode for free. And then in the BR mode, you've got things like the Battle Pass, which get you skins, and it's a much cheaper purchase. It's like $10 or so, £7, £8, something like that. You've also got, like pretty much every other game, an in-game currency, in this case called V-Bucks, which allow you to spend real money on things like skins and stuff like that, and just buy them directly. So there's a few different ways that they have monetized, and that is their general model. Now, all of that sounds great, but none of it is really that innovative. I mean, battle passes or season passes, premium passes are in basically everything now, as I've already mentioned. The idea of having a free-to-play mode which you can buy skins in, that's obviously not a new idea, so nothing there is necessarily going to be suddenly copied and applied elsewhere. But there's one thing that Epic Games, the developers of Fortnite, have done, which, as far as I have seen at least, hasn't really been done on this scale in any other multiplayer arena-style shooter type game ever. Certainly not that I've heard of, at least. They've done something so incredibly powerful for keeping players engaged that Fortnite is, and you can't really argue with this, one of, if not the biggest games on the planet right now. It's huge, and it's dominating everything else. And it's that technique that they've introduced that I want to contrast against Call of Duty's current model to see what CoD has to do to stay successful and to stay afloat, and also what other games might need to start trying to introduce as well. Now, maybe something fun to do here would be for you to pause this video real quick, scroll down, guess what I'm about to say by writing a comment in the comments section, post that bad boy, keep playing the video, and then see if you got it right. Go ahead and do that. I think the key to Fortnite's current success is that Epic Games has stayed nimble. And this is something that at face value doesn't seem that difficult. It really doesn't seem that interesting. It's something that surely other studios would be easily able to replicate, and yet, I think there's actually more to the story that kind of easily goes overlooked. So, why are they nimble? What do I even mean by that? Well, pretty much every few days, if not every week, there is a new update to Fortnite, and it includes new guns, new items, changes to the map itself, new skins, new emotes, new all sorts of things. There is a constant, ongoing train of content coming from Epic to supplement the community as they play that Fortnite Battle Royale mode that has blown up so much. There's always something new, and it means that you can go away for a weekend with your family, or maybe you just go on a school trip or something, you come home, and the game feels revitalized completely, because it's really fresh. There is legitimate new content in there, injected into the mode, which changes the entirety of the gameplay experience. And that core loop is so strong and so well polished that anything on top of that that sits above it and kind of adds a flavor to the gameplay is incredibly fun to experience, and if you get to do that over and over again every week, you're just never going to get bored of that game. I mean, obviously, every game has its life cycle, and eventually people will get bored, but for the most part, your interest is going to be maintained so much better if there's constantly new stuff and it's constantly fresh and fun in ways that you previously haven't experienced, compared to a much more static model where the base game is the exact same the entire year round. Maybe there are some new maps, but it's essentially the same thing, just in a new play space over and over again. And that stagnancy is exactly what we've seen for the last, at this point, 15 years with Call of Duty. Now, I mentioned at the start of this video that CoD have started recently doing events in their games to try and spice up the gameplay in a similar way to what Epic are doing with Fortnite. But there is a key difference here. Activision is extremely slow-moving in this regard, and CoD have been as well as a result of that. You look at a game like Fortnite, and there'll be something suggested in the community, there'll be discussion about a patch or a suggestion for a new feature, and it can literally be in the game 1 week later. You compare that to something like, I don't know, very small example, Banana Colada, a gumball in Black Ops 3, that was only introduced months after it was first brought up. Literal months. The joke had died at that point, and they were like, yeah, we'll introduce this now. That sounds like a good idea. Like, it took a long time. Similarly, the current seasonal stuff that they're trying to do is just uninteresting. There's not really any reason to care. I mean, you're playing multiplayer, there's a seasonal event going on. What does it change? Some people might be wearing St. Patrick's Day hats. And that is another example of the kind of sluggish nature of the development, where they're seeing a trend, they're seeing a new style of something being done in the industry, and they're trying to move towards it, but doing it in a really lumbered way. And this is something I've talked about on my channel loads in the past as well. I mean, for example, with Black Ops 3, they did this 8 Days of the Undead thing to try and make it seem like there was suddenly some urgency to be playing zombies in that window, but really, there just wasn't. it wasn't actually that interesting, and ultimately, I think that the more of those kind of failures that happen, the more that the community will see future events on the horizon from Call of Duty and go, you know what? I don't care. The last one was boring. This one's just going to be the same thing. We are being Pavlov's dogged into not enjoying these events that Call of Duty have been doing. And it's pretty unfortunate, in my opinion, because I'm a big COD fan. I play a lot of Call of Duty, but without this kind of model, I just don't think that the game can succeed for many more years. It needs to be able to be more swift and execute better in a shorter time frame if it's going to be able to compete at all with games like Fortnite in the coming years. I mean, a perfect example of Fortnite doing something incredible that COD could just never do at this point is their current Marvel Mashup mode with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet in Fortnite Battle Royale. You can play as Thanos, you can find the gauntlet, it's incredible. The fact that that exists at all is mind-bending, and further icing on the cake is that that was an idea that actually came from Marvel. They approached Fortnite and said, hey, we think this could be cool, and Marvel are notorious for being impossible to work with. I'll give you an example of exactly why in a moment and what I mean by that, but Epic Games got it done. Infinity War came out a couple of days ago, well, like a week ago now, and we've got a Marvel mashup in the game for a limited time. It's phenomenal work, and it's going to mean that this massively grossing Goliath that is Infinity War is going to supercharge the Fortnite player base, and the Fortnite player base is then going to be even more likely to go and see Infinity War, and it's a beautiful blend of these two completely different mediums for a common goal of essentially entertaining people, but done in a way that is just artful, completely. And yes, you could argue that the Marvel mashup is not necessarily the most balanced thing in the world. You just build a sky base and Thanos is suddenly extremely vulnerable to you, which doesn't seem very realistic. And those sorts of things are valid concerns, but just the fact that it happened at all, it's just something you would never see in a game like Call of Duty. Now, the reason I said that Marvel are notoriously poor to work with is because recently there was a streamer who had actually made some videos for Marvel, and they said that when they were making those videos, they were like a Marvel vs. Capcom stream or something like that. They said that Marvel went as far as saying, oh yeah, you're not allowed to show a Marvel character being beaten up in this video. You can't be hurting a Marvel character. And this is in a fighting game. So this is literally a game where the characters are meant to beat each other up. And Marvel were like, no, we're not allowed to take any damage here. We have to be like completely flawless. You can't show us being beaten. Similarly, they would only allow their characters to be matched up against certain other characters because they had a load of internal rules about who was allowed and wasn't allowed to fight who from Capcom. They wouldn't let any Capcom character beat them in those videos. They were just weird rules that no regular person would think about when watching that video. No one is going to see Hulk getting beaten up and go, oh, Hulk's crap, I hate the Hulk now forevermore. That's just not going to be the case, right? And yet Marvel had all these kind of preconceived rules that they inserted there, and they made the development for this guy making the videos horrendous. Like, they made it so much more hard than it needed to be, and yet, amongst all of that, I'm coming back to the same point now, Epic Games got it done. I am sure that Marvel, in the discussions with Epic, were giving all sorts of silly rules that Epic had to fulfill, such as probably making sure that Thanos looked bigger and more powerful than every other player in any promotional image that they released, or any promotional video had to make Thanos look incredibly powerful, the most awe-inspiring character that would ever appear in Fortnite. They'd add all those sort of stipulations in, because that's just the way Marvel are, and once again, Epic still got it done. And I do not think in a million years that if Marvel had approached Activision and said, hi guys, we would really love to add a character into your game temporarily. For example, let's say you could suddenly play as Thanos in Zombies, just for instance. It's a silly idea, but let's run with that for a moment. There is just no way it would have happened. No chance. I think it probably would have just died at the negotiation table between Marvel and Activision. I mean, Activision are not nimble That's the key in the way that Epic are, and so I feel like Epic could circumvent those issues and navigate around them, where Activision would get more stuck on them, and they've shown this in the things that have trickled down into the development of their Call of Duty titles that would have essentially just kind of obstructed the entire thing from happening in any timely manner in the first place. And this is a problem that Activision has to fix if it wants to keep up with Fortnite in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And other games, just like Call of Duty, are going to have to fix this problem as well. This is why I'm using Call of Duty as just an example guinea pig here, where really I'm talking about a lot broader spectrum of games right now, of AAAs. Fortnite is doing something that no other studio has really been able to do in its speed of implementation and the quality in which it is doing it. And Call of Duty, in its current state, if it's going to be moving towards any kind of Overwatchy model, as Black Ops 4 rumors have potentially alluded to, or if it's going to be some kind of more continuous update system, so they don't really need to have that main campaign that is seemingly not going to be there for the game. Instead, they're going to just focus on continuous updates. If they're going to do that, they need to be able to be quick and light on their feet and able to take an idea and get it in the game as soon as possible. But right now, I just don't think they're quite there. So ultimately, this is the change that I think the industry is going to need to adopt if it wants to stay competitive in the next few years, or games will die. IPs, franchises will die, because there is an expectation being taught to us now by games like Fortnite that other games are going to need to be able to keep pace with if they want to keep our interests. And as I said at the start of the video, this won't apply to all games. God of War's going to be fine, guys. Don't worry. It's not going to be an issue. Red Dead Redemption is still going to be really fun. Like, all those sorts of things still apply. I'm just saying that for games like CoD, that are middle of the pack, kind of not really innovating like crazy, not really known for their stories, and not going to have a story this year, those sorts of games might well need to start trying to fix up in this regard, or their death might be around the corner. And that's coming from a massive CoD fan who loves zombies, who knows that Black Ops 4 is coming at the end of the year, and who is more excited for that game than potentially any other game he's ever played in the past and been hyped for in the past. I just genuinely really want to see some positive change in this area. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you agree, smack that like button, headbutt it, I don't care what you do. Just click the thumbs up button, make sure you're subscribed, make sure notifications are on, and also, if you want to see more content like this from me in the future, and more videos with Fortnite gameplay talking about things relating to Fortnite, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.